Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Lead with Heart interview with my beautiful friend, Lysa Black. My name is Karina Ladet. I'm an intuitive channel, a healer, and a mentor for conscious entrepreneurs. And I'm so excited to have Lysa here today. Lysa, who is a very gifted, amazing, sparkly, kind-hearted, generous, funny business mentor for gifted leaders who want to rise and prosper on purpose with ease. So welcome, Lysa. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you, darling. You're always so kind to me. Thank you for always being so generous.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to be with you. And I love what you've created for yourself, your beautiful business, your beautiful life in New Zealand with your family. And you're taking time off and taking care of yourself. And you're such a great example of what it looks like to have a truly sustainable and prosperous and enjoyable business that I think we all, that's what we all want, and no matter what that looks like for each and every one of us. So I would love to dive into the topic of leadership with you a little bit, because this is about leading, right? The new light leaders and the new movement leaders leading with heart. And I know that one of the big things when it comes to leadership is boundaries. And that's something that you're very good at implementing and expressing and really embracing. So I would love to hear a bit more about your journey with boundaries and where you're at now. Because this is always a journey. Most of us don't we don't just get it at the first go, right?
Well, what's so funny is I was going to say that the only way I've found boundaries and what is right for me is by being trampled on, desecrated, and willingly desecrating myself repeatedly for many years. And unfortunately, it really is our sensitivity to our own emotional experience of the consequences of dishonored boundaries that actually informs and educates us. And this will be my 10th year of business, and by damn have I permitted people to disrespect me, walk all over me, trample me, as well as trampling and disrespecting myself. I was highly proficient in that. It's okay. I earned a few accreditations in that area. And what we realize at some point is that if we don't take responsibility for our internal world and advocating for ourselves in the external world, then no one is ever going to do that for us. And I think we all look at one stage for somebody that will support us and speak up for us and just do us right. And I think increasingly we're realizing that in this world, ain't nobody going to do you right if you don't speak up for yourself first.
Yes, I totally agree. And I think that when it's not clear for us that we love ourselves and we respect ourselves and that our boundaries are clear, people are definitely going to come up and kind of poke holes, right? So, and we really have to learn that, because it's really difficult to move forward with unclear boundaries. And well, we all know how much energy and time and like how much heartbreak that involves too. Because often it's with people who are close to us or clients that we are close to as well. So it can create a lot of chaos and pain. So we really do have, it's kind of like walking through the fire, isn't it? We really have to do it.
It is. And I think when we are so inspired by love and when we are leading with our hearts, I feel like we fear the ramifications so highly that we can often permit our standards to drop so that we don't lose. I find it really is the fear of loss that actually prevents the clear articulation. There's kind of two stages. We need to be aware of our internal world, which you are a master at, and in our friendship and our professional relationship, it's your awareness of the internal realm and your ability to be able to cleanse, clear, communicate, and connect internally. That is a necessary element of boundaries for somebody to actually know what their boundaries are, because they are individual, case by case, specific to every individual. Like your boundaries are very different to my boundaries. Hey, hon.
Yeah. Yes. And that's great too, because I think it's one of those things where we have to learn what our own boundaries are and how we want to express them. And it's fine to stretch what that is, because usually we have to stretch a little bit what that really means and how we need to communicate them. But we can't just pick someone else's, right? We really have to find our own way of doing that.
Yes. And I think you really model a beautiful connection with all of the internal selves, with our own soul, from the intuitive guidance that we're receiving. And that's where that information is. And I know that your tribe know that, and I know that you teach that so beautifully, Karina, that ability to tune in and be aware of that precious, sacred, individualized information. If there was a book written on this stuff, it's very deep within us. And I know that you were in a position where you were forced to find that book for yourself, because no one taught you how to advocate for yourself. No one taught you what was right and wrong in regards to how other people are permitted and allowed to behave around you. So that has always been something that I have admired so deeply about you, is your connection with your internal realm means that you know. And that's a very important step for anyone listening to this that really wants to be able to speak up and be clear about their boundaries in the external world, is first you have to uncover what they are in your internal world.
Yes, so true. Thank you. Yeah, it does. You do need to have that strong sense of what's okay for me, what isn't okay for me. And I spent a lot of years going back and forth. I remember with my kids, it was so funny because I'd be like, say no to something. And then in my head, I'm going, well, maybe that's not quite right. And maybe I can say yes to this, but not to that. And then I didn't really know, because there was no ultimate right or wrong thing. I just had to decide on something. And for some people that's easy, and for some people it's not. So it's like really getting clear, is this a yes for me? Is this a no for me? And then what I love about you, Lysa, is that you're very good at communicating that clearly. Because then it's like, it's not about having a conversation and asking people to agree with your boundaries or feel okay and not hurt by your like all that stuff. But you're really good at saying, actually, this is my boundary. And I'm communicating it clearly to you. And this is what happens if you trespass.
Yes. And, you know, I think we really forget that we are each the king or queen of our own realm. That for me, I never felt like there was space that was designated for me. And many sensitive, you know, people who are empathic and gifted and intuitive, we feel like we can't actually discern where that territory is. Yeah. So doing that internal work to discover it, but then actually making that clear and real in the external world is only possible through a vocal expression. And all of us have to do that authentically and in alignment with our own connection with ourselves. I have very strong, quite masculine energy. I'm soft and gentle, but I'm starkly clear. I'm not leaving anything for misunderstanding or misinterpretation. And I think it's important to find our own style, but to understand that if we do not feel like the queen within our own kingdom, that we are actually permitting other people to ransack and desecrate our ground. And when we permit and allow that to happen, there is no safety in our internal realm. So if we're wanting to create big, beautiful things in the world through our businesses, to align with our purpose means that we have to be able to easily, succinctly communicate that with ourselves and everyone in our external world.
I love that. And so, Lysa, what happens when you state your boundaries and the person does not agree, or they try to bargain with you? Like, how do you deal with that? Because sometimes I can be really clear, and then I'm like, oh, well, let's negotiate this a little bit, or I get caught up in what other people feel. How do you do that? Because I assume it must happen sometimes.
Yes, I think there was a stage in my life where I allowed it to be negotiated, and what I realized is that as soon as we negotiate, we compromise. So we actually all intrinsically know what is right for us and what's wrong, and we all have to face the emotional consequences of permitting someone to not know and therefore unknowingly or knowingly desecrate us internally. And I think it's the pain of that happening that is the real education here. When we are not clear and we don't state conditions, I always talk about our terms and conditions. I do this in friendship, Hi, I'm Lysa Black. If you want to be friends with me, that means that we're going to have honest, open communication at all times, because I'm an empath and I'm actually going to know what you're thinking and feeling at all times. And if you're not going to be truthful with me, I'm going to feel super weird, because I don't know whether you know what you're thinking and feeling, or whether only I am and you're hiding it from yourself. So permission to speak freely and honestly at all times. And I have literally had this conversation with you. Hey, Karina.
Yes.
Like, yeah. I've literally gone, okay, if you want to be friends with me, here's the toll. There's a cost. And it may involve some uncomfortable communication at times, but I want you to know that you can be honest with me and tell me if you don't like it, and I can stop the line of questioning. And so I think it's about understanding from pain what really is right for us or not. And then once you know that, send out the decree, roll the scroll. Hello, I send an edict throughout the land. I am Lysa Black. If you speak to me disrespectfully, I will lovingly call you out. If you do it again, I will leave. If you follow me, I will call you out and I will ask you to leave. And I will name and state exactly what you're doing that's disrespectful. And I'll be holding myself in so much love the whole time that you do not have a right to desecrate that or negotiate it.
Wow, that's really but I think that's great, because it really helps me to get more clear on that. Because the thing is, when we start negotiating our boundaries, even if it feels a little bit okay when we start, because we feel like we're making peace with someone, we're trying to find a middle way, at some point it's not going to feel good, and that means we're not going to feel safe in that relationship. It means that there's going to be stuff that we need to guess, and when we start to guess and feel into, and when what we feel does not correspond with what the person's saying, that's usually when it starts getting messy, and it's really difficult to move away from something like that or transform it once you're in it, right? So I find it's actually easier to be clear at the get-go, because sometimes we think we need the same thing and we don't. So that's what's so great, to be clear. And you put this in writing to your clients and on your website and things like that, right? To really be clear about what your boundaries are.
I think it's very important to put it into writing, but I think the more important thing is to actually be very comfortable vocalizing it. And that's actually the key. As much as I reinforce it in writing with all of my clients, it's actually vocalizing it. I think I practice boundaries with my husband, my children, my friends, my clients, and myself equally. Like, there's no place where I practice boundaries more or less, because I had a client come to me and go, great, I've asserted boundaries with this person, it went really well, I'm done now, hey. And it's like, actually, you actually have to have an emissary or an ambassador within you that actually walks around on your behalf, continually rehearsing. So because we need to keep on clarifying our boundaries all the time, I have like a little replay. And that I hit the button, play, and it'll just hi, my name's Lysa Black, and this is what's acceptable, and this is what isn't. Is that okay with you? Because if it's not, I'm leaving. Yeah. And so important that we have to address our own deep fears of loss and abandonment in order to clearly articulate our boundaries. Because if we feel loss, we're never going to have the strength to clarify. And I know I would rather stay with myself and feel like I've respected myself than allow the fear of loss to cause me to concede, because that's what I did, and I lost big time. Particularly with family relationships, the desire to stay connected meant that I permitted disrespect, which meant I was in anguish and pain and deep sadness while trying to pretend that I was in a loving, compatible, relationship. And it's important not to lie to ourselves about what true love and connection has to be mutually agreed upon.
Yes. And it is, like you said, it's ultimately about choosing yourself, right? Because when you love yourself and you honor yourself, there are things that we just can't allow. And that means that it's more important to love ourselves deeply than to please someone else or make sure someone else loves us. Because it's really about self-love and self-care and honoring who we are. And we are the ones who have to set the tone for that. We can't wait for other people to kind of give it to us. Because then they can take it away again, right, when they want to. And it really has to come from within. And I feel like that's like a really big, deep, necessary journey that we all have to have to take, and you model that so beautifully. And so Lysa is also going to teach a masterclass on this topic in my Lead with Heart Mastermind. So I'm really excited about that, because I've had Lysa as a guest teacher before, and she's amazing, and you really give so much value, so much one-on-one support during that time as well. And it's great to have someone with so much experience as well sharing this. I wanted to ask you one last question before we wrap this up. Lysa, if you're up for it.
Please.
So this is all, this mastermind that I'm opening up to now is all about leadership. And I would love to know what your biggest challenges have been when it comes to stepping into the leader that you are now.
Ooh, this is really good. I'm going to be very vulnerable and tell the truth that the hardest thing about leadership for me is being self-led, that I can't look at what other people are doing and try to replicate it. I can't buy in to the facade of what I want myself to want through business success. I can't deceive myself. And I think I've been doing a lot of work over summer, stripping down what is the reason why we are in business. If we are motivated by fear or pain, we're not going to be a sustainable business. If we're motivated by gain, money, power, love, recognition, then it's flawed, it's limited, and it's not whole. And you can feel that. Yeah. For me, leading with heart, and the biggest challenge that I have is actually being very sincere and genuine with myself, to acknowledge that business for me is about becoming. And there is no better measure than being the fullest, clearest expression of myself in the world. And that's my aim in business. And what that looks like, the model that I use and the client load that I take on and the financial reflection that that creates is not as important as the embodiment of my presence and my willingness to honor my truth, because no one knows that. No, I can't prove it to anyone. No one can see. Some people might sense it, but I could trick myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I love that, Lysa. And that is a big one. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. Because I feel that leadership, I don't know if it's particular for women, but it just brings up a lot of stuff that we have to work through. But then the rewards are just amazing, because that means we can create a life that we really, really love, and something completely unique, which is it's like the biggest gift, and then it just spills into every part of our life, right? It's not just the business, it's also our relationships, our homes, our families, with our friends. It's just, yeah, it's such a magical gift. So thank you so much, Lysa, for your time today. And I would love to invite those of you who want to know more about Lysa or work with Lysa, discover her amazing world, to find her through the links under this video. And then I would love to also invite those of you who feel the call to join my Lead with Heart Mastermind for loving, amazing light leaders who really feel that strong call from within to lead in a new way. And you are needed, and now is the time. So if you're feeling that this is for you, I would love to connect with you and to welcome you into this mastermind. And you will also get to know Lysa better. And we have another guest teacher as well, Jodee, Peevor, and the amazing women who have already said yes to this adventure. So thank you so much to all of you. And you can find all the links below. Thank you so much for those of you listening, and sending so much love. And thank you to you, Lysa, for being so amazing.
Thank you, darling. I've loved this. Big blessings on everyone.